What up, YouTubers? Salvador Brigman here, and today we're talking about how to get crowdfunding for your film. How do you finance your film using the crowd? And the reason I want to put out this video in particular is because I think there's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of confusion. We're led to believe by the media that you can just raise hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for a crowdfunding campaign. And to be honest, it's true, but that's not the entire truth. So I want to set things straight for you so that going into a crowdfunding campaign, you feel more prepared, you feel more confident, and you actually are getting the absolute truth when it comes to raising money on websites like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Seed and Spark, etc. So the first thing I want to introduce you to is the concept that not every crowdfunding category is the same. So if you go on Kickstarter, you browse through some of the different categories. You can see technology, you can see design, gaming, comics, and also film and video. The film and video category is very different than the technology and design category. And it's sort of different in the way that these projects get backers and the way that these projects stand out, where their backers actually come from. What we tend to see with the design projects, with more of the technology gadgets or gizmos, let's just say like you spent a lot of time and you created this really cool looking watch, or you created this design product that helps your life in some way, or a cool technology gadget like Bluetooth speakers or something like that. And you launch that on Kickstarter. You're probably gonna see a healthy amount of backers who come from both your social network, and you're also gonna see a large number of backers from strangers. These are people that you've never met before. You've never interacted with these people. They just were browsing Kickstarter or Indiegogo and they came across your product. So there's a lot of traction here in the way of the actual marketplace of Kickstarter or Indiegogo. And there's also a lot of traction in terms of strangers on the internet, maybe finding your post that went viral, or they come across your video in some way. There's a lot of traction from strangers. Now, with a film fundraising campaign, it works a little bit differently. Typically, these types of projects, and you can go into the archives of my podcast, the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. I have, I think, over 170 episodes now. I've been doing it for a while. Lots of reviews on iTunes. I've had a lot of different campaigners, and you can go and see, you can listen, hear directly from the mouths of filmmakers just like you, and you can see how hard it is to actually raise money with crowdfunding. And the reason is, there's an expectation that you can just launch this project into the universe and it's going to get funded by film lovers, by people who just love supporting films for some reason. The reality is that I would say anywhere from 80 to 85% of the backers that you receive for your film via Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or other crowdfunding websites is going to come from your first and second degree connections. So these are people that have been following your film career, could be kept connected on LinkedIn, it could be friends and family, people who are looking to support you, could be existing fans of some sort. It's going to come from your existing followers and your existing social network. So that's really important because it changes your expectations a bit. I have a lot of really good people on the podcast who have come on and said, I really thought I would raise more money from my friends and family, but it turns out they didn't know what Kickstarter was, or they didn't know what Indiegogo is. So the focus then turns to education. It comes to warming people up about this new film, warming people up to the concept of crowdfunding, and you can see how that might change your focus going into a campaign. Now at the same time, there are these projects, particularly those I've interviewed, but also you can just see them, you can browse the Kickstarter ecosystem that do rein in backers, that do attract backers who don't know the creator. These are strangers that are supporting the crowdfunding project. So how does that happen? Well, there are a few different ways. There's the standard list of, say, social media, advertising, roping people in via email lists, like etc. But I found that for me, the main way that these crowdfunded film campaigns attract strangers is that they align their story with a group, with an organization, or with a person. And for some reason, their story resonates with that group of people or with that individual. So to give you an example, maybe you create an indie film and the indie film talks about a genocide that happened. And then someone else out there around the world, they see your video and maybe they personally were affected by genocide, or they're running a nonprofit organization that is working to help areas that go through this horrible experience. And the message, the story of your film in some way helps out someone else's agenda. The agenda they have for themselves as a person, they empathize with it, or if they're running some kind of an organization, it supports that overall agenda. It could be something like women's empowerment, female empowerment for the characters in your story. It could be something completely different. Maybe your film is about inner city schools and people who support, charitable works in inner city schools really vibe with your film. So you want to come from that angle when you're thinking about roping in these strangers for your project. So the first is, as I said, don't view this as you're gonna get 80% of your funding from strangers for your film project. Probably is gonna be more like 20%. So you should plan for that and create a pre-launch with your friends, your family, your existing connections, and warm them up to this concept of crowdfunding and this film that you're trying to produce. The number two huge reason why people fail is lack of education. Lack of knowledge of the proven strategies that work. Lack of an idea of the tactics that they can employ to actually raise more money. And the reason here is I've had so many people who find my blog, who find my YouTube or my podcast in the middle of their crowdfunding campaign. And they're like, Sal, I love the work that you put out. I only wish that I had discovered your content sooner. And that's like the worst feeling in the world, that I wish I could help people at the beginning, 3 months before they launch. So I really always try to stress, educate yourself as much as possible. You really try to dig in here and absorb as much information about how crowdfunding works, about how marketing works, how to tell your story, how to create an effective pitch video, all these different components of a successful crowdfunding campaign launch. And a lot of people are like, Sal, that sounds like a lot of work, man. I don't want to put in all that time and energy. But what I have to say with that is, a successful campaign on Kickstarter or Indiegogo can literally change your life. It can change the trajectory of your career. It can open up so many different opportunities for you, and it can also get you funding and then have this project created. And then that project, people can watch that film and can experience your work. And it's really a turning point for many people out there when it comes to their work and their career. But also, you have to be a little bit smart about it. The way that films traditionally would work is you maybe sign on to a company that distributes your film and that does the marketing for your film. If you're doing crowdfunding, you're trying to raise money that way, you don't have the same level of access. So you have to do the marketing for your own film. You have to be the one shouting from the rooftops and really explaining to people why this is gonna be an epic film, why this is gonna be something they want to support, why this is a message that needs to be shared into the world. These are the types of people that you're trying to persuade the value of your crowdfunding campaign. So aside from education, aside from this distinction between technology, gadgets, and gizmos, and the sort of film type of crowdfunding campaign, there's a last tidbit that I'd like to leave with you in terms of your film crowdfunding campaign. There's a lot more we can go into, guys. There's a ton. Go back into my YouTube channel archives. I have many videos on how to raise money, tips, techniques, ways to get the word out, how to get PR attention. I've also written a book, which I'll link to down below, the Kickstarter launch formula, that goes into all the different strategies. And for those of you out there that are super serious about actually smashing your goal, getting media attention, all that kind of stuff, I also have a free course where I talk about all of this. I share with you the strategies that will work to get you funding. So I urge you to check that out in the link, as a link in the description down below. Now that being said, let's go into my final tip for you here if you are looking to raise money for a film project. And that is that the biggest distinction here, we look here, we see some major crowdfunding success stories. We see people who have raised 6, sometimes even 7 figures with crowdfunding, and we almost seem like it happens like serendipitously. The truth of the matter is that these launches are very carefully planned. They're extremely carefully planned. And what you wanna do, if you do wanna have a mega launch, I'm talking raising 50 grand, 100 grand, you wanna put as much energy into the pre-launch as you can. I mean, gathering up social media followers, gathering up an email address that you can announce to when you launch, lining up publications that are gonna write about you, and people and influencers that are gonna share your message, using things like Thunderclap to maybe coordinate an entire social outgoing message for the people that are following you. There are a lot of different things you can do in the pre-launch phase, but you have to look at this as a launch process. You need to devote a budget to your crowdfunding campaign launch. There's a point in time where you can literally just like raise money out of the sky, but that time has passed. If you want a good crowdfunding campaign, you have to invest in a good pitch video, in good design, and most importantly, an advertising and marketing strategy. So make sure that you budget for that. Set aside a budget for your crowdfunding campaign. That is gonna make a huge difference in terms of whether or not you are successful with your film fundraising project. Now, all this being said, I have a lot more stuff to share with you guys, so be sure to hit that subscribe button so you get a notification when new videos come out. And also, if you did like this video, if you got a golden nugget out of this or a helpful bit of advice, give me a thumbs up so that other people know that. And finally, leave a comment down below and let me know, what kind of film are you looking to raise money for? You know, what genre of film? What's interesting about this film? Share a little bit of your story, you know, tease us a little bit. And it's also gonna help you when you go out there and you start to outreach to other people and tell them about this project. It's gonna help you formulate that and sort of put it into an elevator pitch. So share that in the comments down below. But again, my name is Sal. This is the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.